The story starts way back in 1815 in France, and it's a total mess for poor people. We meet this dude, Jean, who's been in prison for 19 years. And get this, it's because he stole some bread for his starving nephew. Like one loaf of bread, 19 years. So messed up. And the jailer is this total jerk who just hates him and makes his life miserable with all this super hard labor. But then, surprise, Jean gets out on parole. The jailer's like, don't think you're free. You got to report to me all the time and be a perfect citizen. So Jean's super happy, but he can't find a job anywhere because his papers basically scream criminal. He's homeless. It's total disaster. Then this super nice priest finds him and is like, you look like you need help. He takes him home, gives him a hot meal on these fancy silver plates. And Jean, who's just hit rock bottom, gets this greedy idea and just steals all the silver and runs for it. But of course he gets caught immediately and dragged back. He thinks he's totally busted. But the priest is like, whoa, guys, chill out. I gave him that silver. He totally covers for him. Then he tells Jean, you're a good dude deep down. Take this silver, start a new life, and pay it forward. Jean is so shocked and happy, he just thanks the guy, rips up his parole papers, and vanishes to start fresh. Fast forward 8 years, and you won't believe it. Jean is now a super successful factory owner and the freaking mayor of a town. He's a whole new man. So there's this girl, Fantine, who works for him. She's got a secret kid that nobody knows about. And when the other factory workers find out about it, they're total jerks to her about it. Jean comes out to see what all the yelling is about, and who does he see? The old jailer, the jerk from the prison. And get this, he's now the police chief of this exact town. Total nightmare. So Jean tells his manager to deal with the drama while he goes to talk to the chief. But the manager is this total creep who hits on Fantine. She slaps him and he fires her on the spot, and Jean has no idea. So Jean's talking to the chief, and the chief is like, you look super familiar. And Jean's just trying to play it cool. Then there's this commotion outside. A guy is trapped under a cart, and Jean, being a good guy, just runs over and lifts the whole thing by himself. He's crazy strong, and the chief sees this, and it all clicks. He's like, that's him. That's the prisoner who can lift anything. He knows, but he doesn't have any real proof yet. Meanwhile, poor Fantine is totally broke. She has to sell her hair for money, and when that's not enough, she's forced to become a prostitute. It's so sad. She's just doing it all to send money for her daughter. And this just goes on, with her life getting worse and worse.
So one day, Fantine is super sick and this guy tries to force himself on her. She fights back and scratches his face all up, so the cops get called, and of course the guy lies and says she attacked him. Fantine is crying and trying to tell the truth, but the police chief, that same jerk jailer, doesn't believe her and is about to throw her in jail. She's begging, like, what about my daughter? And right then, Jean shows up. He recognizes Fantine from his factory and tells the chief to let her go. Then he asks her how she ended up like this. She just explodes and is like, it's all your fault. Your creepy manager fired me for no reason, and I had to do this to survive. Jean is totally shocked and feels awful. He picks her up himself and takes her to the hospital. Then the chief comes to Jean and is like, my bad, dude. I thought you were that escaped prisoner, but they just caught the real guy. Jean is completely floored. He can't stand the thought of some innocent guy taking the fall for him. So he marches right into court and is like, it's me. I'm the guy who broke Peru. Let that other dude go. But nobody believes him. They all just think he's gone crazy. So he goes back to the hospital, but Fantine is dying. With her last breath, she's still worried about her daughter. Jean promises he'll take care of her, and then she passes away. It's so sad. And right then, the chief shows up again. He's like, okay, I was wrong. You are the prisoner, and I'm arresting you. Jean begs him, like, just let me take care of her daughter first, then I'll turn myself in. But the chief won't listen, so they get into this big fight, and Jean manages to escape. So now we meet Fantine's daughter, Cosette, and her uncle is a total monster who just uses her as a slave and takes all the money Fantine sends. Then Jean shows up, gives the uncle a ton of money, and just takes Cosette with him. Fast forward 9 years. They're in Paris, and there's this whole rebellion brewing against the government. We meet this student who's part of it, and the second he sees Cosette, who's all grown up and beautiful now, he's totally in love. He's looking all over for her in the crowd, but can't find her. And get this, Cosette's horrible uncle and his family are in Paris now too. They see Jean and they're like, give us more money for her. But then the police chief shows up and Jean and Cosette just run for it. The uncle lies to the chief and is like, that guy just kidnapped my daughter. So now the chief is hunting for Jean again, thinking he's a kidnapper. Meanwhile, the student and his rebel friends find out that this general who always supported the poor has died. It's a huge blow. But then the student's friend, who he asked to find Cosette, comes and tells him she found her. And here's the crazy part. That friend is actually Cosette's cousin, the uncle's daughter, but she has no idea. So Cosette tells Jean she's in love with the student, but Jean's like, we can't deal with that right now. We're on the run, but she can't forget him. And then the student finds her and tells her he loves her. But his friend, the cousin, overhears the whole thing and is totally heartbroken because she's secretly in love with him too. But Cosette and the student don't know that, and they're just happy to be together. But then they hear Jean's voice.
So Cosette bolts back to her house. Her cousin is super bummed and starts to head home, but then she sees her dad with a bunch of cops, and they're going to Jean's house to get them arrested. But she's a good person, so she stops her dad and makes a bunch of noise to warn Jean. Jean gets the hint and decides they have to leave for England like right now. Before they go, Cosette writes a letter for the student and gives it to her cousin to deliver. So at the general's funeral, the rebels just start a full-on protest against the government. And who does the government send to shut it down? The police chief. He goes undercover, pretending to be a rebel to find their leaders. But this little kid totally recognizes him, and the rebels capture him. That night, the cops attack the rebels, and Cosette's cousin gets shot. But before she dies, she gives the student Cosette's letter. She really was a good person. So the student reads the letter and writes one back to Cosette. He gives it to a kid to deliver, but Jean gets it instead. He reads it and finally realizes how much they love each other. He also knows the student's life is in danger, so the next day he dresses up like a cop and goes to where the rebels are. They almost attack him, but the same little kid is like, no, he's with us. Then Jean sees they've got the police chief tied up and are about to hang him. Jean's like, let me do it. And he takes the chief down to a quiet spot, tells him to run, and then just shoots the wall. The rebels hear the shot and think he's dead. The next day, the cops launch a massive attack. All the rebels are killed, including the little kid. The student gets shot and is badly injured. Jean is the only one who survives. He grabs the student and escapes into the sewers. The police chief is just heartbroken seeing all the dead bodies, especially the kids. He takes off his own medal and puts it on the kid's body. Then he notices the student's body is missing and sees the open sewer pipe. He figures out what happened. So Jean and the student are passed out in the sewers, and who shows up? Cosette's creepy uncle. He just robs the unconscious student, stealing his ring. But then Jean wakes up, grabs him, and is like, show me the way out of this maze, now! So the uncle has to lead them out. But when they get to the exit, the police chief is just standing there waiting for them. Jean begs him, please, just let us go. I have to save this boy's life. And for the first time, the chief actually shows some mercy. He lets him go. Then, filled with shame for everything he's done, he just jumps off a roof and kills himself. A few days later, the student wakes up. He's devastated that all his friends are dead, but so relieved that he has Cosette. Jean tells him his whole life story, the truth about everything, but says he can never tell Cosette because it would destroy her. Then he just leaves them, disappearing from their lives forever. He doesn't want his past to ruin their future. So Cosette and the student decide to get married, but then of course the creepy uncle shows up again. He tries to blackmail the student, threatening to tell everyone he was a rebel, but then he lets it slip that Jean was the one who saved his life that day. The student had no idea. He's so full of gratitude that he demands to know where Jean is. The uncle is forced to tell him, and he and Cosette rush to find him. They find Jean, and he's super old and sick, all alone and dying. As he's taking his last breaths, he sees Fantine's ghost, and she thanks him for taking care of her daughter. Then Cosette and the student arrive. With his last words, Jean gives Cosette a letter and tells her to read it after he's gone, and then he dies. After he dies, we see Jean's spirit with Fantine's, and the priest who helped him all those years ago is there too. It all comes full circle. He lived a good life and helped people just like the priest told him to. And in the letter, he told Cosette everything, the whole truth about his past. So she'll always remember him as a hero, and he can finally be at peace. And that's how the movie ends.